Welcome to another Sunday morning conversation. This morning, my guest is Bill Christy, and he is the Challenge Family North America CEO. We're going to talk about Miami, all their new races they're kind of coming up with, the TV coverage they have, and even a little bit of NASCAR. So thanks for joining, and I hope you enjoy it. Hey, Bill.
There's my button. How are you?
Another day in the life. It's a little dreary here, a little rain off and on. So we'll see when I'll get that run in today.
Well, where are you?
I'm in Atlanta.
All right. Sorry to do this to you.
Oh, that's Daytona, the Speedway.
Right.
Okay.
So my office is in the glass 8-story building right across the way. I really wasn't showing you that as much as I was the blue sky and the clouds.
Well, everybody notices the stadium. Now, do you work for NASCAR?
I do not. I sometimes I feel like I do. My bride is Lisa France Kennedy. So she and her uncle Jim France are partners, co-partners in NASCAR. So they own NASCAR.
Oh, wow. I guess that's how this all got started, huh?
It is how it all got. Well, actually, a very dear friend of mine, Charlie Leidecker, who's a world-class swimmer. He's actually won the Alcatraz Open Classic at age 49. The guy won it. So he took out the pros, he took out the kids, all the collegiates. And my stepson and I were looking to figure out a way to put on a local triathlon to raise money for the NASCAR Foundation, which is a foundation dedicated to services, functions, groups that provide for special need children. And it's a pretty good sized organization. And Charlie said, well, why don't we swim in Lake Lloyd and see what you think? So, all right. So he and Rowdy Gaines and I, who gets to swim with those two guys, right? You got one 4-time Olympian and world record holder 8 other times, and another guy who's got 4 world records, and then me, which meant they were playing tugboat and I was hanging onto their feet. We swam Lake Lloyd and we got out, and Charlie said, this place is perfect for a triathlon. I subsequently met Zibi Sluvchek, who is at the time the CEO of Challenge Family. He was trying to find a re-entry point for Challenge Family into the United States. And I met him in Claremont on a bike, and he was cycling with a very dear friend of mine. And I said, why don't you come to Daytona? Let me show you something. So he came over. I took him to the very top of the spotter tower where you could see everything. And he said, this would make for a media frenzy to create a triathlon here. I said, we think so. He said, it's all right here. You can do whatever you want. I said, we think so. And that was really the birth of Challenge Daytona in 2018.
Yeah, I know with the pro race, having going around in circles, it's honestly the closest you can get to having a closed venue and to provide yourself the best media coverage. Because, Ironman, when they do their Facebook Live, they have like one person and they're riding on a motorcycle on the bike, and it's very hard to capture the whole thing, where being self-contained, you have, cameras up here, there, everywhere, where you can kind of get a better feel for it. Even though, like, the higher up you go, they still look like ants, you still get to see more of the race.
We call it dancing ants, is the technical term that NASCAR production uses. And we've got low orbiting aircraft that give us a lot of that data and a lot of that access from a footage standpoint. But the thing about having them in facilities is every one of our facilities around the country are all hardlined, hardwired, tower built, ready for TV. So our tracks are conditioned, prepared for all the angles that you need on any given component of what could happen. Example, Miami, Lucy was penalized 2 minutes for a left-sided turn. I don't know if you saw that. I'm sure you did. Mm-hmm. So she was penalized 2 minutes for a pass on the left. And I was in the control room. I was in the production booth, and it was because the angle we had, it was clear as day. I mean, we were looking at it on TV, right? It wasn't a question. So yeah, having that kind of infrastructure is really a special thing for the sport.
So speaking of Miami, and with bike
So you've got
penalties,
your Miami shirt on.
yeah, you know what? It was clean. I just did laundry.
Well, A, it looks good on you, and B, I love the colors.
You know what? I do love the colors. It's very Miami Vice-esque of it. So, and man, it's soft. I love soft cotton.
Me
So,
too.
but speaking of like bike penalties, I did the race, and there were some massive draft packs forming out there, and they kind of joined up at some point to form a massive peloton.
There was the head referee came to me right before we went into the timing booth, and I was called into the timing booth, and he said, I've got 7 pages of DQs for draft, 7 pages of penalties for drafting. And I said, okay. He said, this is going to knock a lot of people off of the podium. And I said, okay. So one of the things, although I think that bike course was beautiful, I think one of the things that we do to make it better is that we hard card people out on the course. And I don't know if you've ever been to a race where they do that, but they're on their motorcycles and they point at you and they hold the card up, and you got to stop at that next penalty tent to serve your time. We think that that's probably the best way to handle that, to keep that from happening. Because I sat in the booth with the timer and watched him flipping through those pages. So yeah, we were aware that I became aware that it happened. And we're just going to have to get better at it next year. So we do a debrief every year after every race, and we rip them apart. Where were we good? Where were we bad? Where can we do better? What can we do to make the race better as a race experience? And we're tough. I mean, it was a 4-hour meeting yesterday, just ripping apart everything. And that was probably one of the biggest things that we focused on, because we love that segment of the course. We think it's beautiful. But we have to figure out a better way to manage the potential of the peloton, to your point. So at this point, our current answer is we're going to have more motos out there. We will have penalty tents out there. You'll be required to go to the next penalty tent and serve your penalty once you've been carded out on the course. And if you fail to do so, you'll be disqualified.
I don't know if you have any input on this with Homestead or whatever jurisdiction runs it, but in the future, can you remove the rumble strips? There's like no buildings on that road unless they're using it for a drag strip. And if you're using it for a drag strip, it's only a quarter mile. And what's the point of the rumble strips?
I will tell you, that's the first time I've heard it. And I'm going to put this immediately up on we have a displayed thinking wall in our conference room that everything from that race came out, and we put it up on the wall. And that's the first time I've heard and you're talking about the little reflectors, right?
No.
Okay,
Well, I don't know if they reflected because it was broad daylight, but they cover almost the entire lane. They covered the entire lane. They're in sets of 4, and there was a set in each lane on both ends of the race. So there were 16 total. And you basically have to go over them, because if you go too wide, you go into oncoming traffic. And if you go to the other side, you have like maybe 6 inches or a foot to ride on the white line to kind of miss them. So you just have to go over them.
So are they like the little reflectors that are like because when I raced Lima, they had they were speed bumps, but they weren't speed bumps, right? They were basically like little squares that were like 4 feet wide, and they extended the full lane across. The first one I went, and they only had 3-foot pass lanes to the right. The first time I went by, when I was coming up on a guy, and I said, on your left, and he didn't move over to give me any room. And I went across him. When I'm telling you, my water bottle went one way, my repair kit went another way. I mean, I lost all my stuff. But if that's what you're talking about, I just wrote that down.
So no, I think what you're talking about is closer to what we call speed humps here in Atlanta. these rumble strips, and it says rumble strips on a street sign because I remember seeing it. They are roughly, they cover almost the entire width of the lane.
Right.
They're maybe 4 inches, or 3 or 4 inches wide. So it's very brief, and it's like kind of like
Right.
how you would go over on the strips, like if you go out of your lane on the freeway, it's that kind of feel towards it. And they're spaced maybe like,
and it was out on the highway, right? Once you got out past US 1 on the leg that went all the way out to Key Largo.
Yeah. And they had, there was 4 sets, 2 in each lane, but they were on each end. So 16 total. And I just didn't see the need for them unless people were drag racing. But, it's like 6 or 7 miles in between them. So what's the point?
I don't know that we put those out there.
Oh, no, they look like they were built into the asphalt when they laid it down.
Yeah. So I've got that as a note, and I'll put it up, and I'll talk to the team about it. Right there.
Well, hey, I'm glad to help out.
Hey, look, you got to know, nobody knows as much as all of us, and that's all of us, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things you'll find out about us, if you haven't figured it out already, is we listen to the athletes because we started this whole thing because we weren't happy about racing where we were racing and dealing with the stuff we were dealing with, right? I wasn't a fan of racking my bike and riding and racing the next day, and couldn't get a hot shower, couldn't get a good meal, couldn't stay at a good hotel, couldn't change my clothes after the race, right? So that's why we didn't start this because we wanted to get into the event business. We started this because we thought we could do a better job. I'm getting another pen in case you have something else. I don't want to miss anything.
Okay. So that swim at Miami, it's what I call a bona fide Chinese fire drill. If you don't know anything about apartments in China, how you burn them down and everybody just clogs into whatever exit they can get to. That's kind of how it was on the second loop, because I started up at the beginning, and by the time I got on the second loop, you're mowing down the people who were slower, and it just becomes congested.
So there's 2 schools of thought. The first school of thought is the number one reason people don't participate in triathlon is because they're fear of the swim. So what we do to counter that is we do a time trial start. Now, where that gets you is in a 2-lap scenario, you're going to come up on some people. So in that scenario, what we're going to do differently is that we're going to put people, we waited probably too long between sets to put people into the water. You got to remember, we were only putting 2 people in the water at a time because of COVID. Well, next year, we'll be putting, 4, 6, 8 people in the water at the same time in a non-COVID environment. So it was unfortunately one of the things we had to live with this year because of COVID. And no, but it did not make for the perfect race experience. But there were things we had to do to keep people safe. And if it came down to, I wasn't totally happy about the swim where I had to swim over some people, I would argue a time trial start keeps you from having a nasty group start anyhow, where that's even worse, in my opinion. But we had to keep everybody safe, and I know you understand that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you do what you can with the situation you have.
It'll be better next year. It will be.
Now but to get back to those drafting penalties, I thought after 3 penalties you were disqualified. Is that correct?
To be fair, do not know the USAT rule.
Okay.
I just don't know. I'd have to ask. I'd have to ask one of my ops people that are the liaison to USAT. I should know that. I don't. I'm gonna write it down. So the question was, after what?
3 drafting penalties, you would be disqualified because you get a 4-minute, an 8-minute, and then I saw somebody with a 12-minute. I'm like, well, that sounds like they got 3 drafting penalties, and it was somebody who was placed pretty high up, one of the women.
I don't know the answer to that. I wish I did, but I promise you it's on the USAT site, because that's, with the exception of the pro race, it was the USAT rule book, right?
Yeah,
The only thing we changed on the pro side was the 20-meter draft rule.
yeah, I saw that was shortened.
No, we extended it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then
It's
maybe
12, it's 12, it's 12 for USAT, and challenge families 20. So I don't know about the 3 draft penalty, but I'll find out the answer to that and get back to you.
That's right. I remember the athlete guide where it said it was 3 bike lengths, and I'm like, Ironman is like 5 or 6 now, so that's why I was thinking that. Okay.
Wish I had an answer. I don't.
Yeah.
One
Now,
thing you'll hear from me is if I don't know the answer, I'll find out the answer and get it for you.
that's great. Answers are always great. Now for the run course, there was kind of a lack of fuel. I know the guys I race for base sometimes, and they said they, they were out at, there was base bars and Powerade goos at every aid station, but that wasn't true. Do you have any, input on that, or was it a power bar and base thing, or was that a challenge thing?
What did you feel as though there was a shortage of?
There wasn't any fuel. I came down with a buddy, and we didn't see really anything to eat on the run course. I know there wasn't.
I know there were gels out.
There were at some, but they weren't at all. And like some of them did,
So
they weren't.
we're talking about bike stations. We're talking about run stations, right?
Run stations. Bike just had water.
Uh,
Because that's all that was being handed to me.
yeah, I'm gonna have to check on that too. I'm not gonna say that I know because I don't, but I was told that we had fuel. The base guys provided us what they did. We also had Power Bar was out, and I saw the cases of Power Bar. I know they were handing out bottles of water because I saw it, but I don't know the answer to that. So what I'll do is I'll find out what was the aid stations and I'll let you know.
I remember, I don't remember what mile markers are because it was such a convoluted course, but I remember about mile 5, mile 11, that one only had water. I can remember that one distinctly because I stopped at that one. It's hard to remember all the other ones because there's all the twists and turns. Kept it interesting, but you just couldn't really keep track. So
tell me something you liked about Miami.
I mean, I like the race as a whole. It's fast.
It is fast. Have you raced Daytona?
No, I was going to do that last year, but I was too concerned about the way COVID was. It happened to be right at the time where, like, beginning or like the end of November, with all the travel for Thanksgiving, things just started to explode. I'm like, I don't feel comfortable doing this. I was thinking about doing it this year, but I didn't feel comfortable doing it last year.
I will tell you that 60% of the people who raced Daytona last year PB'd.
Yeah,
and the pros are saying, everybody's saying it's the fastest course in the world. So it's kind of cool.
I have never been on a NASCAR track before. I've never been to a NASCAR race.
We got to fix that.
Yeah, I know. My dad is he's a muscle car guy, and we just never went. He's never been to one either. So I told him, like, let's go to Talladega.
My gosh, I think somebody who can take care of that for you and probably get you treated pretty doggone well. So let's figure out a way to do that. Okay.
Yeah, my dad would love to go to one of those because he's
grab them.
Yeah,
grab. We've got August this year. Is the Daytona road course, which in my opinion is one of the coolest road courses. I'm sorry again, where are you based?
Atlanta.
So you're not far from Talladega.
No, and Atlanta
the whole experience in and of itself.
Yeah.
Which is tough to define other than saying it's Talladega. Charlotte would be a great race for you to go to. Coming down here would be a great race for you to come to. If you came this way, I could give you an experience. It's a little bit different than having to travel someplace. So you think about that. But regardless of where it is, let's make sure, by gosh, we get you guys set up.
Yeah. So when I was on the run course and I'm rounding the outer edge, I don't know my cardinal directions when I was on the track, but it's the one that runs along the bank, and seeing that 45-degree embankment going 3 wide, it's like, wow, that's kind of humbling. It's just that cars race on that. It was unique. I had never imagined anything like that before, so it was cool.
Wait do you see Daytona? So that bank gets to 18 degrees. Daytona goes to 31. And the geometry associated with how they came up with 31 degrees was very technical. They spent, the civil engineers and the amount of dirt they had to move and blah, blah, blah. It was so technical, they finally resolved themselves to, they were going to make it as steep as they could make it without the bulldozer rolling over. And that was truly how they determined how steep the high banks were going to be in Daytona. But Miami, it's still daunting. You get up there and you're like, wow. And yeah, to your point, to watch 4 cars going 100 in that track, 178 miles an hour, 180 miles an hour, 4 wide, bumper to bumper, side to side. It's crazy.
Yeah, and when I was riding my bike around that edge, I kept thinking of Days of Thunder, where Harry's telling Cole, if you go to the outside, you can't hold. That was just stuck in my head.
I love that movie.
Yeah,
I love that movie.
So when I was at Miami, I talked to a couple people who said they heard from you about you're going to the Finger Lakes for a new race. And I happen to be, my ex-fiance's mother lives in the Finger Lakes, and I happen to know Watkins Glen is basically on a lake. You can hit the lake with a football standing in the middle of the track. So, but there's it doesn't fit your MO with the in-track lake. Is it going to have to be a point-to-point race?
It will be a 2 transition, stuff. Happy to talk about the Glen. The Glen is on the books for next year. I can't give you a date yet, because there's a whole lot of things that are going on around it. And I swore in my marketing group that I wouldn't say anything about it, but it is definitely a 2 transition. The city's amazing on the way we're going to transport spectators and or allow spectators to travel up into the facility. The facility itself is amazing. There's I think I'm right, but just in case I'm wrong, bear with me, because we own, there's a couple of tracks that we go to, but I think it's a 362 with the extra dog leg and a 264 with the straight road course. One of the elevations is similar to Solar Hill at Roth, where we will let people out on the course to cheer cyclists on. We're trying to work through those kind of fun things. But the Glen, as you know, Watkins Glen's a beautiful town, right in the middle of wine country. The cycling course for the middle distance for the 70.3 mile will be through beautifully paved roads, through the vineyards, and then back into the stadium. So it is a 2 transition deal. I think it's about 2 miles, give or take, based on how the guys want to get folks from transition 1 to the stadium.
It's not a far journey.
No, it's not at all. I think it's 4 miles one way and 2 miles the back way. So it'll be a great warm up on the bike for the pros. I don't know how they've got them routed for the age groupers. I've not seen those plans. But yeah, Watkins Glen's a beautiful place, right in the middle of wine region, fantastic restaurants, hotels, warm, Main Street USA, caramel coated apples. I mean, it's just a really cool place. I love it. And I should not say this, but it is my favorite track of all the tracks.
That's nice. That's nice. I was looking at the satellite photos and trying to piece together how it would race work with my head. And I only saw there's 2 parking lots that are big enough to stick a transition in, or T1 in, by the lake. The first is Walmart, and that's not going to happen. And the other one is across the stream, or the little river that leads into the lake.
So what you don't see on the map is that they've totally redone the park.
Okay.
And it's beautiful. And we've got a great setup for T1. It's beautiful. It's right at the water exit. They've spent a ton of money redoing that park and rejuvenating it. And I was there not long ago, and it's really, really a special experience. It's a beautiful part of town.
Now, Ironman recently bought, within the last year, bought out Musselman, which is opposite side. I don't remember which lake it's on, but it's in the vicinity.
It's on Seneca.
Okay.
I believe it's
Yeah.
on Seneca.
And I think it's at the opposite end.
It is.
So you don't know the date, or you can't say the date, but obviously it's going to be during the midsummer just because of the temperature. How do you feel like competing with them? How do you think that's going to work out?
Well, two things. One, we think we're a different product, right? So, you know, our model is family friendly, right? So if we do it right, and I've said it on Breakfast with Bob, so it's not a secret, we will have a 5K wine walk. You're in beautiful wine country. Why wouldn't you do that, right? So our festival nature is very different than just showing up, racking a bike and racing. The Glen is a very different city than Seneca. So I think that's a big part of it. The south side of the lake is a very, very different type of geography than the north side of the lake. And that lake's 30 miles, I think, long. So it's a very different environment, A. B, we're not a rack and race product. We're a family product. We want everybody to have something to do. And, you know, that's why we're different. The folks in Tampa do a great job at what they do, but we're just a different product. The pro race is going to be obviously like our standard format. It'll be broken out into its own race so that all the spectators and can watch and participate. And, you know, it'll be, as I'm sure you know, it'll be live streamed through a big channel, and it'll be on a network TV. So we're excited about that, as is all our races, right? So we're excited about what that race is going to be.
So with the pro race at Miami, I was trying to watch it on NBC Sports, the app, and then I pulled it up on my laptop. It wasn't giving it to me. It's like I had to watch it on my TV. And I'll admit that, you know, I'm 35. People my age and younger don't watch cable. We've either, you know, if we have our own places, we've cut the cord. So that kind of, you know, cuts out a market that you're trying to reach. You know, getting older people in the sport, that's great. But if you're, you know, with triathlon, you're trying to fill the ranks in with newer, younger people. And, you know, Ironman has the same thing, issuing their special on NBC Sports, to where you can't, it's not that easy access if you cut the cord.
So we were available on live stream through Facebook, and it was $2.99. And it was a fantastic stream. Obviously, it was the entire stream of the entire race that NASCAR Productions did put on. So you could, and we probably did not do the greatest job of publicizing that before the fact. We will going into Daytona, that whatever live stream channel we choose will be very accessible wherever you are in the world. As long as you've got internet, you can come to our homepage and hit the link, and it'll send you to the live stream. So you're right. Not everybody watches NBC anymore in our world, but I will tell you that we had over 2.8 million hours of sustained viewing. And with regard to that, the demographics were 37% of them were aged 18 to 35. So to answer both your questions, yep, you're right. It's a new technology. It's a new world. You better be able to watch it on your phone. We probably did not market that as well as we could have. Need to do a better job there. And the demographic was a huge surprise to us and our carrier, Facebook. So we're excited about that. We really are, because you're right. You're right.
And to follow up with that, you know, people my age and younger, they've all, a lot of us have left Facebook just because we see what it is. We don't like it. You know, have you thought about signing a deal? I don't know how that, if you have a contract with them or not, but to go to YouTube Live, to where, you know, we don't have to have as many strings attached.
We're going to be, well, you know, we're looking at a lot of alternatives right now for a lot of reasons, one of which is what you mentioned. But there's a lot of factors that we're looking at. So we're going to try and provide, my criteria is what's going to provide the most consistent product for you so you don't get interruptions. What is going to provide the easiest access for you so you don't get interrupted, that you can just go and get there easily. What is going to be the easiest mechanism by which you get there, right? So good quality, easy to get to, and it's a stable platform, right? Those are my personal 3 objectives with regard to our live stream product.
Now, do you think your ratings would have been better if you had the pro race on Saturday, or if you left it on Friday? I mean, I don't know how many people tune in on the work day, or
define better.
I guess an increase in either viewership, like in hours, or eyeballs. I guess one or the other. I don't know which one you have metrics for.
Both. The cut down version of the race aired 3 different times on the 18th, 20th, and 21st, I believe. So that was the NBCSN cut down. The live stream went up and was active at the time of the race. We were blown away by the live stream numbers. It rattled everybody, right? Friday was a decision that I made for one reason and one reason only. And that was, there was so much pressure. It was only the second race that we had televised, right? So we don't shoot a race as a live stream like the folks in Tampa and then chop it up and put voice over the top of it. And then that's our TV product. We create a TV product as if it was a live event, and the live stream is that live event. So we don't tape it, chop it up, show it later. It's a live event. And then from there, both TV production quality and live stream should both show those in parallel. I made the decision, right, wrong, or indifferent, to do the race on Friday for 2 reasons. NASCAR Productions, for them to turn around a cut down product this time, right? And so many of our international TV partners wanted a product quicker than what happened in Daytona. So Daytona, they got back, they did all their editing. It was a week before they got the product that they wanted. By the time the race happened to the time they got it out, and then it got distributed the next week, international partners wanted it sooner. And the NASCAR production folks said, well, we could do that. I said, well, what happens if we race on Friday? They said, perfect, we'll have it out to everybody by Monday, which was spectacular. They were able to do that. So that was the first reason that I put it on Friday. The second reason I put it on Friday was that selfishly, all the pros had been trained and locked up in places around the world where they couldn't get out and see sunshine. And if I put the race on Friday, they could come in and they could enjoy the weekend in Miami, right? Because they were outside of quarantine. They had already been COVID tested the whole time they were here. So that was one of the things that the pros asked of me. Will we do it again? I'm not sure we'll do it Friday that early. I'm not sure it wouldn't be under the lights. I'm not sure it'd be Saturday. So we're going to revisit that. That's one of the things the ops team's revisiting as we speak.
How do you feel about separating the start times between the pros a little bit more? Because I know you essentially, I was looking at it before the start. I'm like, they're going to be on the course at the same time as each other.
So we think that made it for better TV. If you look at the ratings and the Facebook responses will tell you that's the case. I think the thing that we learned from that experience was that we spent too much time watching the first 8 women cross the line. We should have been focused more on the men biking at that point. So we went to split screens to address that. So we learned a bunch in that scenario. We like the action on TV. We want both races to, if we can safely do it, we want both races to be as close together as possible without impeding the beauty of being able to tell the stories of not only the first 3 people, but what's going on in the pack. One of the things I love the most about the Miami race is that you had at one point Rudy, Matt, and who else was it? Tyson, that were fighting for third or fourth position. Might have been fifth position at that point, where Matt was coming up through the field, and Hansen was just killing it. And then there was this big duel going on. So we didn't want to lose that, right? We don't want to just focus on the people up front. We want to focus on what's going on throughout the race, right? We want the dancing ants. We want all the battles that are going on throughout the race. So will we do that again? Yeah, we will definitely cross cover them again. We think it makes for better TV. At least that's what our audience is telling us. Do we need to do a better job of recognizing how much time we're spending on one place versus the other? Yeah, and that's going to come with us getting better. So I think we're way ahead of everybody else when it comes to media broadcast and TV of triathlon, but we've still got a lot to learn. And one thing I know about the NASCAR production folks, they are relentless when it comes to improvement. So they're excited.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it to you there. Your TV production value and the coverage is far better than Ironman or anybody else. I don't remember. Rev 3 was the first to start it, and I just don't remember that far back what it was like. But it's definitely far better. Now, I know you don't want to talk much about future races as in what's next, but is everything going to stick to your MO of racetracks?
Is everything going to stick to our MO of racetracks?
Yeah.
We have so many phenomenal opportunities with great courses in spectacular towns with great water either inside or nearby. It doesn't make a lot of sense for me in the near term to switch from that MO.
Now, does it have to be a NASCAR track? Because when I've written of 4 or 5 things this year on Challenge Family, particularly in North America. So I've looked at all the satellite photos and tried to guess how I would plan out a course. There's only a handful of tracks that have that in-track lake.
Watkins Glen's not one of them, right?
No, it's not. But it was on my list because it had a long enough. I picked 6, right? And Miami wasn't on that because I said, oh, it's only a 2.21 mile track. I didn't realize you were going to weave us through everything inside of the track. So I wasn't thinking that far ahead. But I had a whole bunch of other ones.
Give us credit. You got to give us credit. We did.
Yeah. No, you did a lot better. And it made for a very spectator-friendly environment, too. There was a lot of people. You can contain a lot of spectators in a short amount of time because I could be looking here and then I could be turning around there and I see you twice, without having to move.
So pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that's pretty convenient, And I brought one person with me and we both raced. So, but I brought some spectators, I'm sure they would have had a blast. But yeah, I had a list, and I think 2.25 miles was my track list, and Watkins Glen was on there. But there were I had Talladega on there, although I didn't know if you could swim in the creek. I had the Indy 500 on there because that track's big enough. But I don't know what your future is about if North America is just going to be United States expansion, because there's a track. Let me look at the name because I can't speak French. I'm not going to pronounce it right. It's in Montreal. It's called Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. So that has it's an Indy track race. And I don't know, did you take Indy tracks off the list of potential places?
No, absolutely not. You got to remember IndyCar is owned by Roger Penske, and Roger is a huge part of NASCAR, as well as SMI. SMI still owns 14 tracks. In fact, Sonoma is an SMI track. And you've heard me talk about Sonoma in the past, so it's no surprise that we're going to figure out a way to do that race. Look, there are every opportunity that there is water relatively close to a track. We're going to pursue that opportunity. We're going to prioritize them based on some things, right? But yeah, that's in the near future. I got to get to 15 races, and 15 races is a bunch of races, and we've got a lot of opportunities to do that, both in North America and Challenge Family's given me the green light to do it in Latin America if I choose to do that, as well as Canada. So we've got more opportunities than we do hands at this point, but we want to do it right. We want to grow in a thoughtful, well-planned athlete experience manner. So I'm not going to put on a show unless it's a show as good as Miami or as good as Daytona. So I think that our big focus is to ensure that the age group athlete walks away with an experience that says if it was their first sprint or their 40th sprint or their first middle distance or their 40th middle distance, that they were going to have a world championship experience, regardless of which time they had done it. So we're not going to do it unless it's a high quality event. We're not going to do it unless we can do it our way. And we're excited to do that, but that takes time and planning. And we just believe that the combination of television, age group athlete experience, we're going to continue to do more things for the age groupers. You probably recognize that you can go to our YouTube channel and see the age groupers race, which is kind of fun. This year, we actually gave out a check to the #1 overall male and #1 overall female age grouper, received a check. So they all held up big white checks, which is kind of fun. So the good news with us is there are no rules with the exception of one rule. And that is, as triathletes, we want the best experience we can give to our fellow triathletes. So no rules.
You said 15 races. What's your goal and how long it's going to take for you to get to 15
I
races?
think it's going to take us about 5 years to get there.
Okay.
We've got 4 on the books next year, with 4 more in the pipe. So that's our goal. Our goal is 15.
Now, I noticed in the, I think it was the race guide, how slots for the championship in Samarin, there were no roll downs. It was you're either top 6 or nothing. How do you feel like that format? Is that a good thing? Because I know Ironman with their 70.3 worlds, they can roll down to 59th. I heard of a guy who took a Chattanooga slot years ago. He just, if you don't show up and it just rolls, it can tumble.
I heard. I've got a friend who went to a championship, and she was 18th in her age group, right? And she wasn't there for a roll down. It's their way. It's the way they do it. They believe by giving 6 slots, it's more inclusive than you showing up at the time with a credit card in your hand, running up to stage and paying for the event right then and there. So Challenge Family's argument's going to be, we don't force you to pay for it right then and there. We're going to email you. We're going to give you some time, and we're going to invite 6 people instead of 2. And, that way, that if you just couldn't make the roll down for whatever reason, and that happens, right? I got to catch a flight, or I didn't know that 2 people in front of me DQ'd, or, whatever it is. Their feeling is that it's a much more inclusive vehicle to allow people to participate than a roll down. So that's their logic. It's a family-oriented argument, and I think it's a good argument. Like I said, we're not those people. They do things very differently. We've got a different product, and I think when people when people continue to see us as a different product and understand why, then they'll understand we're not going to do things the same way. While our competitive nature of our athletes like you is still incredibly high, people are going to look for a different experience. Like me, I didn't want to show up and put my bike in a rack and not see anybody, not know anybody, walk through an expo that, with the exception of that tent, really didn't have anything I wanted or was interested in. There was no energy to the expo. We've got an Olympic Village. We've got autograph sessions. We've got a free beer garden. We've got a free wine garden. With COVID, all those things come back. So I hope you'll join us in December at Daytona. But that's why we got Johnny Jumper houses. We've got cornhole going on. We've got sponge tubs going on. We got all kinds of things happening, but we're not the same product. So as long as people continue to say, well, they do it this way, why do you do it that way?
Well, if you play enough Pitbull at Miami, there'll be some energy.
You had to have liked that, right? Did
I
you not
actually,
love that?
when I heard the first one, I started counting it. I'm like, how many Pitbull songs am I going to hear while I'm here? Because I was there. My friend, he had some difficulties with his bike, so we were at the expo. He was at City Bike, so I was there for a few hours. So I had some time to actually take it all in. But yeah, there was a lot of Pitbull. I'd say maybe a third. So
We
I mean,
tried.
it's
We
expected. It's
tried.
Miami.
We tried. You got to hear Pitbull.
So
We tried.
the last thing I'm going to ask you is, this wasn't my first challenge race, but it's my first new challenge race. My first
It was your
full
first
distance-
Challenge North America race.
No, my first full distance was when you paired with Rev 3 back in 2015 at Cedar Point. It's not the same.
The guy who runs media for NASCAR, we take those phone calls.
Hey, I don't
Yeah,
mind.
so again, I'm going to have to say, whatever you knew about Challenge family prior to me taking over in the United States 3 years ago, forget it, because none of that counts, right?
Yeah.
So that totally different. We run it differently. We think differently. Our motivation's different. It's much more in line, as I understand, because I've been told, and I wasn't around for that, right? So what I was told was it was a pretty much rack race, normal, try and do what the folks in Tampa do, and that's not going to work. It's not the product people want. People want a different product.
Well, what my question was going to be is middle distance what you're going to top out at? Do you plan on bringing in a full distance race at all in North America?
Boy, we are really under a lot of pressure to do that. And I think that never say never. If our consumers are asking for it, and if it fits into our family style, then yeah, we'll figure out a way to do it. But you got to remember, I'm not sure. Look, we don't get stuck on distances, right? The Daytona distance was a specific distance at 100K for the pros, and that was calculated by the pros for the pros to ensure equality between the ITU folks, the middle distance folks, and the long course folks, right? The Miami distance was a distance calculated for Miami based on that track, which the pros loved and the age groupers loved. So each time we look at something, we are not going to get caught up in a specific distance. But if enough people come to us and say, give us a 140, right? Give us 180 kilometers. Maybe we should do that. So one thing you're never going to hear from us is no, right? We just don't think that way.
Yeah, I mean, I will definitely race your races. I'm not a huge fan of Ironman, and I never have, just because I feel like it's a extremely corporate environment, and I don't know, I feel kind of jaded by the experience. And I've always raced a lot of independent races, and this is the first, race I've done outside of that challenge race that is no longer what challenge is today. That has another race series. So, I definitely look forward to doing it, and I don't mind traveling because my old job as a consultant gave me a lot of Sky Miles and hotel points.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think I have like over 200,000 Delta Sky Miles. I don't remember how many I have on Southwest. I get like 400,000 Hilton points, so I can go wherever.
You know what they call that, right? Combat pay.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. It's a new term to me, but I'm sure you're familiar with it.
I'm a little older than you are. So yeah, 2 million miler with Delta. I carry a thing called the Delta's Flying Colonel card, which when you pull it out of your pocket, most people look at it and say, what is that? And it's a card that's been around since the 80s. And it's automatic upgrades, automatic entries into, but they have to ask people. They have to actually pick up the phone and ask people what it is. That's how old it is, because they don't do it anymore. But
I had never heard of it.
Like I said, you're a kid. I'm a lot older than you are.
Well, Bill, thanks for giving me some time today. I appreciate it.
Oh, hey, I loved it. I loved it. And I'm so glad you enjoyed Miami. And, I've got your questions here. I'll talk to my team about it and see where they are on it. The rumble strip, I'll learn more about that for you. But I'm glad you had a good experience, and I'm glad that you found it to be a spectator friendly and a good time. And just wait till it's not COVID and we don't have to restrict people the way we restricted them, because it's a party and it's a
Yeah,
big.
it was definitely an experience. Like the only downside was it's not as close to the beach as everybody would hope, but NASCAR courses they aren't like that. And if you want, take an extra day and go to the beach.
Yeah, I mean, we were 20 minutes from Key Largo, so that's the beach. We had a lot of folks that went to Miami Beach, and they were there right before the onslaught of spring break. I was there the weekend before for a cup race, and I stayed up at the beach, and it's about a 45-minute drive from Miami Beach. But I think that the important part to us is there a major airport you can get into? Are there great hotels? Can you get to Key Largo with the family for a day to the beach? And that's what we're going to continue to do. I mean, Watkins Glen is such a cool town. Daytona, as I stand right now, I'm 4 miles from Daytona Beach, and Daytona is a new town. It's not the town that people think about from spring break in the 80s. I mean, they've put, I think, $6 billion in infrastructure into this town. So it's got its own shopping malls and great restaurants right here. And I really am looking forward to having you in Daytona, and I think you're going to have a great experience. I'll make sure that we connect, and I can get you a little bit of the scenes behind the curtain and watch the Wizard.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, speaking of the airports with Miami, my friend that I raced with, he had to work Friday, so he flew down, and I timed it to where I left Atlanta at about the right time that he would be landing, because it took that long to get there. And then I picked him up at Fort Lauderdale, and then we went, and then after the race, it was like 2 p.m. I said, let's get out of here. We got back at 1 a.m. So yeah, it was definitely an experience, but it works out if you have to fly to the race though. So
it works out. It works out. I mean, I think that you look at the Glen, closest airport, if you flew into Rochester or Syracuse or Buffalo, you're 45 minutes, I think, from I've done it in 40 minutes. I was going a little faster than I probably should have. But Philadelphia and New York, those folks are used to traveling 4 hours to get to Lake Placid out of Manhattan. So getting to us is not going to be a big deal. Philadelphia obviously is pretty close, but we're excited about the venues. We're excited about the product, but more importantly, we're excited about people like you who said, wow, this is a different product. And yeah, it was a good time. And yeah, we were excited that we got to see what we saw.
Yeah, and if I do the Glen, I can bring spectators with me because my parents live in Youngstown, Ohio. And,
they're right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I can bring people along with me. I'll just drive up, pick them up, and then go there.
I'll tell you what, if you're going to bring the family, rent a camper. It's a phenomenal motor coach experience.
You know what? I had an uncle pass not too long ago, and they've inherited one. So I guess I can.
That's where I stayed in Miami. It was awesome. We had such a good time. And in a non-COVID world, Daytona, we totally sold out one of the lots and had to go into the second lot. And Daytona a year ago. And I always do a private party for everybody who has a motor coach in the driver owner lot, which is where all the drivers and owners keep their coaches. So if you registered early, what you got was a special ticket to come to the DO party at my coach. And I remember the guy who was coordinating the party for me said, I don't know, we're going to have enough people. I said, well, I said, we're going to have it. And it was a beautiful day. And I went over there and I looked at him and said, how are we doing? He goes, I'm going to run out of food. I said, what are you going to do? He said, we're already working on it. Don't worry about it. So it was a great party. The pros were all over there. That's the thing, we want it to be a tailgate. We want it to be a NASCAR race. We want it to be an experience. We don't want it to just be a rack your bike and race. That we're not that product. So I'm really glad you were there. I'm glad you guys had a good time. I look forward to seeing you in Daytona. And when we announce the dates of the Glen, I think that's going to be very exciting in and of itself. So stay tuned. You're going to hear two announcements, a minimum 2 announcements this year about next year.
That sounds great. Thanks again, Bill, for your time. I appreciate it.
Enjoyed being with you. If there's anything I can do for you, please get a hold of Jessica. I'm happy to help. But I would please take me up on my offer, figure out what race you guys want to get to, and let me help you have a good experience at that race.
I think I kind of want to get my dad to Talladega because I heard about the people that is kind of like the Preakness.
Unbelievable. It is unbelievable. It is.
I heard about the
Have you
people
ever seen the
with the
movie
lakes.
Talladega Nights?
Yeah.
If you've seen the movie Talladega Nights,
Yes,
it's
I have.
all true.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything you've seen is true.
Okay. All right. Thanks again, Bill.
Have a great one. Thanks
You
so
too.
much. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, guys, for watching another Sunday morning conversation. If you liked what you saw, please do like and subscribe. And if you want to see more of them, click the little bell notification and it'll tell you whenever I post another one.